Hi guys, what's up? It's your girl Charla from That Girl Cooks Healthy. Today I'm gonna show you how to make some delicious cou cou. Really simple, easy. It's cheap, effective, very tasty, and one of my childhood favorites. So let's get to it. So these are the ingredients that you're going to need. You're going to need some coconut milk. Fresh coconut milk is always best if you cannot get canned coconut milk, but you want to use coconut milk that is full fat. I have some water. I also have some fine cornmeal as well. So you want to use fine cornmeal, not coarse cornmeal, because coarse cornmeal will take too long to cook. So for this particular recipe for the cou cou, I do recommend using fine cornmeal. If you're in the States, I believe that it is referred to as corn flour. So you want to go for fine cornmeal or corn flour depending on where you're located. I also have some pimento peppers as well. They're really hard to get, and I was very fortunate to be able to get some, and I was really excited that I was able to buy it because it's really hard when I'm making certain recipes to get this particular pepper, but I was able to get that. If you cannot get that pepper, then you can use a red bell pepper as an alternative. I also have some okra that I've sliced, a small amount of onion, some garlic, some vegan butter, and some pink salt and black pepper. So the first thing we need to do is to grab a large saucepan, and when we grab a large saucepan, we want to add the coconut milk, we want to add the water, the okra, the onions, garlic, peppers, the dairy-free butter, pink salt, and black pepper. So we're going to add those ingredients, and what we want to do is we just want to cook those ingredients. So we add those ingredients, and then I'm going to tell you what you need to do next. So now we're just going to bring the pot to the boil, and then we're going to reduce the heat and allow it to simmer for about 5 minutes. So our pot has been simmering for about 5 minutes now, so I'm just gonna grab my little spatula and give the contents a stir. And once I do that, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna switch off the stove. So you can either remove the pot from the stove or you can switch it off, whichever one you're comfortable with. If you're a novice, I recommend removing it from the stove. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to pour in half of the cornmeal. So I'm going to start pouring in the half of the cornmeal, and then I'm going to immediately stir. It's really important that you stir at the same time. So you want to add half of the cornmeal and stir at the same time, and it's going to start to thicken up. You might see a few small amount of lumps, but they will go. You shouldn't see a lot of lumps. You should see just a small amount. Also find as well that I use a spatula to begin with, and then I go and I change to using a whisk because I find the whisk does a better job. So you might just want to use a whisk at the beginning, or you might want to do what I did where I changed. So you'll see me change from using the spatula to using the whisk, and as you can see now, it's starting to smooth out. And as it starts to smooth out, you want to then continue with adding the rest of the cornmeal. When you add the rest of the cornmeal, you want to keep stirring, and you also want to make sure as well that the Coo Coo is not too thick, but at the same time it is not too thin as well. So you can see I'm just continuing to stir now using the whisk, and you're just going to keep stirring and stirring until you get, it should look like almost like a ball. So you'll see that as I go along. So I've been stirring the Coo Coo for a few minutes now, and it's a little too thick for my preference, so I'm just going to pour in some water. When you pour in the water, you only want to pour in a small amount because you don't want to end up with the Coo Coo being too runny. You want to go by what your preference is for the Coo Coo. Some people like theirs extra thick, some people like theirs more of a smooth texture. So mine is thickish to smooth texture, and that is what I want for my Coo Coo. And now I'm going to go back to using my spatula, and you're going to see now that I'm going to be able to just move it. It should move away from the pot. As you can see there, I'm just moving it away from the pot. There's no lumps whatsoever, and I should be able to form a ball if I wanted to. So I'm just going to turn it around a few times, and at the same time the Coo Coo is going to continue to cook. Because we're using fine cornmeal, it's not going to take that long, and that's the texture that we need. So now that the Coo Coo is ready, I'm going to show you how I like to serve my Coo Coo. Some people like to put it in a oven-proof bowl or a dish. Other people like to do what I do, where you serve it in a bowl and then you invert it onto a plate so you get a nice dome top. So I'm gonna start to scoop out the Coo Coo into my dish. The dish that I'm using, what I did is I have some sprinkle of water, so it's a wet bowl, also greased up. So I grease it up and then I just went over it with a small amount of water, and that's going to help and prevent the Coo Coo from sticking. So it's just going to literally just slide out of the dish once we invert it onto a plate. So you just want to fill that up to the top and just leave it to just cool down a little bit more, and then I'm gonna invert it onto a plate so you guys can see what it looks like. So just smooth down the top once you've added the Coo Coo, the amount that you want, to your bowl, and then leave it for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna show you how to invert it. So I'm just using a spoon as well to smooth that out. So as you can see, I have a plate now, and I'm gonna invert the Coo Coo onto the plate. So I'm literally just gonna get the bowl with the Coo Coo and just invert it, and the Coo Coo, it should literally come out. If it doesn't come out, then you can just run a knife or a spoon around the perimeter, and that should help to ease it out, but you shouldn't really have to do that. I find that it does come out quite quickly. And yeah, that's pretty much how to invert it onto a plate if you want to serve it that way. So I'm going to finish off with serving my Coo Coo with some caramelized onions, because I really like to add caramelized onions when I'm eating Coo Coo. It's my favorite thing to eat it with. Sometimes I'll cook it with some mackerel as well. So you know, you can serve it anyhow that you want. So people usually serve it with fish, meat. It is similar to Jamaica tongue cornmeal. It's the same type of thing. It's fungi. Some islands call it fungi as well. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just slightly different in terms of what you add to it, but the main ingredient is always cornmeal. That's the main ingredient. So I hope you like this recipe. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the other side.